What is up, everyone? I'm Skratch. Welcome to the channel. This is another Dragonheir Silent Gods video. Today, we're gonna talk about the top 10 best epic damage dealers in Dragonheir Silent Gods. And hear me out, because whenever I'm doing these videos, I usually tend to find it fairly okayish to put the top 10. Now, with the damage dealers here, guys, I'm struggling. So I feel like even though I'm titling it top 10, it's gonna be top 12 or something like that, because there are a couple of other heroes that are really standing out, and because I didn't have a chance to try every single one of them in action, right? Like, I don't have access to all of them, I don't own all of the epics. It's a bit harder to disclaim them without being 100% positive about it, you know? So I do want to mention that before we dive into the main topic. And completely off topic, I just want to let you guys know that I might not be able to reply to the comments for the next couple of weeks. Tonight I'm actually going holiday, so I'm heading to Romania with the little one. He's gonna meet the folks, you know, like meet everyone, his grandmother and stuff like this. So it's gonna be a fun one. Plus, I'm trying to disconnect this time around to actually have a proper holiday and just enjoy a bit of time with the family away and stay away from the internet. That's what I'm gonna try to do for the next couple of weeks. Now, I'm not sure if I'm gonna manage to do that, you know, because it does feel pretty hard to get that organized, but I'll do my best. So if I'm not replying to comments, guys, just so you know why, it's not that I'm ignoring all of you. But wish you guys a couple of awesome weeks ahead. So talking about epic damage dealers, guys, let's head back to the index, the gallery, because we like this place. So there are a few solid wild heroes. One thing that I want to mention again is that all of these heroes will need to be put in the right teams. So if you're putting a champion that needs wild and you're putting him with frost and every other element in the game except another wild hero, and he's not going to get to utilize his full potential, they're not going to deal amazing damage. So it's very important to create the perfect team synergy to bring the champions to their full potential. Unlike other games, Dragonheir really needs it, okay? So I'm going to start directly with Dane. He's one of my most favorite epic champions, and not only that he brings you tons of damage, but he brings you a lot of utility, pretty good base attack, and he brings you double AoE attacks. Now, the aura is only for City of Trials. Then you have the passive. When the hero deals damage to enemies with less than 50% HP, he recharges the ultimate energy, and the effect can only be triggered every 5 seconds. This skill right here, guys, deals 300% attack fire damage to enemies within range. The range is fairly decent, it's not huge. Healing prohibition, fear, and a very good amount of damage. Now, the next skill has a massive coverage area and has a chance to dispel 2 buffs from enemies within range. 650% attack fire damage, and of course has a chance to land attack penalty, the smaller version. If the enemies are under 50% HP, he's gonna steal the buffs instead, allowing him to have increased attack or other buffs like that, which will make him even crazier. That's why I really think he's one of the best, in my opinion. At least I do have that vibe. Like, I'm using him in a lot of areas and he rocks for me, you know? So big shout out to Dane, definitely one of the top 10. Then of course we have no one else but Tonelnan. She's such an amazing champion, and I'm so glad that I finally summoned her, because she completely destroys every content, man. Like, when we're talking about raw damage, I feel like out of the epics, not many, if any, can compete with Tonelnan, okay? The passive, the hero gains an extra 20% crit rate. So straight off the back, you only need 80% crit rate to build this champion. Almost 1,500 attack, which is disgusting. Each successful wild by allies grants 5% crit damage to the hero. So you need wild heroes with her to enable her passive faster, and that will stack up to 20 times. So you're gonna gain 100% crit damage from her passive. Wields the double blade, dealing 90% attack fire damage to the target 3 times. The higher the number difference between the buffs on the hero and the target, the higher the damage. So that's pretty nice. Wild already boosts the damage by quite a bit. And then you have the ultimate. Gains 20% attack up for 10 seconds and deals 160 attack fire damage to the target 5 times. Okay, she just goes berserk and melts everything. She is 100% the #1 damage dealer on my account. Sorry, I kind of lost it there. She's amazing. Then we have a couple of different ones right here. Foley, she's a pretty interesting one. Now, I'm a bit in between with her being in my top 10, okay? But I still think it's worth mentioning that she has some very interesting potential, okay? Her base attack is not that high, that's one of the things. And then Captain Aura, crit damage for all battles, which is useful. Each successful wild check by allies increases the damage of the hero's next basic attack by 60 and makes it wild. So that's a very, very interesting thing, because the battle skill, for 7 seconds after casting it, the number of orbs shot by the hero's basic attack is modified to 2. So basically, the basic skill will shoot twice as many orbs. Now, we don't really know exactly the multipliers on that, but it can become wild, basically. So that boosts the damage. Now, this one right here is the interesting one, because this can be used against the Vortex. Now, before, in the very first 6 days, I tried the hero in a wild comp, you know, and I haven't felt a lot of firepower from her, but mainly because my team was not great either. My gear was not great either. So I cannot just take that in consideration, what I've seen, because I feel like it was not done properly, you know. And this skill right here has a chance to hit the same enemy 3 times, and that will bring over 1200 attack damage, okay, which is massive. Is massive if you give her the right stats, and having her in the right team, I feel like she does have a lot of potential. And so is Caraman. Caraman, very interesting too. And Captain Aura for Rena. The passive gains increased attack and attack speed, which is very, very nice for him upon a successful wild. It doesn't say it needs to be his. It can be from an ally. The battle skill flashes behind the enemy with the lowest HP, dealing 420% attack damage, which is interesting. Then he does other things, but that's mainly kind of like his damage from the skill. The ultimate skill, charges at an enemy, dealing 750% attack. Now, you already have increased attack, which will bring you quite a bit of damage, and ignores 30% of the target's defense. Now, I feel like this can be more beneficial against single targets, aka bosses and stuff like that, rather than Goblin or waves or stuff like that, you know? So he does have some potential as well, 100%. So him and Foley are kind of like question marks in my top 10, FYI, just so you guys know, in case if you were wondering, who am I talking about, or what exactly is happening? Moving over to the next one, Horus can be an interesting one, so shout out to Horus. I haven't had a chance to try him. The Kit, Poisoner, they do tend to be a bit harder to build, and I don't really find Poisoners that insane on waves or stuff like that. You know, like Poisons will be ticks based on enemy max HP, so they're not that amazing all around. But the next champion that we have on the list, guys, is going to be Shagral. So he is an interesting hero. He's a Dauntless hero, so he needs to be paired with more Dauntless heroes. So Captain Aura, attack speed in all battles, which is nice because that's what Dauntless heroes need. The more speed, attack speed you have, the better. Like, his attack speed is already very good at 1.72 seconds, you know, so that's massive. Increasing that even more is going to benefit him a lot. Then, basic attacks have a 25% chance to attack twice. Booked is going to go to 45% chance, so that's pretty good. Then you have the battle skill, leaps at the enemy with the lowest HP and launches an attack dealing 380 attack lightning damage. The ultimate skill, leaps towards an enemy and makes 5 slashes, with each slash dealing 160% attack damage. Killing the enemy with this skill will grant the heroes 40% attack up. The skill is counted as a basic attack. So that's basically kind of like how it works with the Dauntless heroes. Most of their skills count as basic attacks, so you potentially get to do a lot of damage and synergize better with other heroes. Now, if you bring in attack up on him as well before all these slashes, he will bring a lot of damage too. So Shagral, 100% worth using. Shelter has potential for the Vortex because of all the derivative damage, but that's something again that I need to try to make sure he's actually gonna be spot on, you know, to make sure he's solid. Nimbus as well, interesting, but I don't have him, so it's a bit hard to say it. His kit doesn't sound so interesting like the ones that I just mentioned so far, and I don't think he's a top 10. I think he might be somewhere at a top 15, you know. Same with Shook. Shook is an interesting one. Decent damage. He brings a lot of debuffs, which are pretty nice. But I don't think he's making my top 10, you know. So it's a pretty good damage, though. Pretty good damage, actually. So Definitely another top 15 sort of champion. But moving over to the next one, guys, that we have right here is gonna be Hego. So Hego is pretty interesting. He's a rally hero. So these heroes need to be paired with other rally heroes or champions that support the rally heroes, and rally basically boosts their damage. So the passive, there's a 50% chance of granting rally to a random ally for 10 seconds after the hero casts a skill. 75% chance fully booked or fully scrolled, let me put it like that. Then you have the battle skill, launches 2 attacks on the target, each dealing 300% damage. The second hit has a chance to gain rally for the hero and recharges the hero's ultimate energy by 20%, which is gonna be massive because it's gonna allow you to rotate your skills more often. And that's the three, guys. The more often you're rolling your skills, the more often you're using the battle skill ultimate, the more damage you're bringing in, you know. And even though this multiplier is not the craziest one for an AoE, it's still a good coverage area and is AoE, and it consumes rally to give him 50% increased damage, which is pretty damn solid. So he can bring in quite a bit of damage. I am actually looking forward to build my rally team and give him a go. Then I have Martina. She's the 99 cents hero or the $1 champion, and she's actually solid. I used her a lot in the beta, and the main thing that I like about her is not only that she deals a lot of damage. With the passive, when gaining rally, the hero recharges ultimate energy by 20%. The effect can only be triggered once every 5 seconds. So again, she needs a different hero to bring rally for her. The battle skill deals 300% attack radiant damage to surrounding enemies, guarantees a critical hit if 2 or more enemies are hit, and then gains rally for 10 seconds. So you don't need full crit rate on this champion. Just stack a lot of attack, a lot of crit damage, make sure she's in the front line of your team, smacking the enemies, because when she's using these skills, she's always going to crit if she hits multiple enemies, which is very, very good. Then you have the ultimate skill, deals 680 attack radiant damage to enemies within range. If the hero has rally, of course, is using it to unleash the skill to deal extra damage. Is going to be a critical hit guaranteed again, so you don't need crit rate, and ignores 40% of the enemy's defense, which is going to be so damn powerful. 40% is a lot, man. So definitely Martina, not a champion to sleep on, you know. Like, I'm looking forward as well to try and bring her back into the team, in a rally team, when I'm going to build that. Then the next one that I have on the list, guys, is going to be no one else but Guna, another rally hero, and she is actually pretty damn nuts. So increases all allies crit damage by 24% in all battles. That's the aura. The passive, when the hero gains rally, flashes to the furthest enemy, dealing 200 attack radiant damage to them, takes effect once every 5 seconds. So if you have another hero that constantly buffs rally on them, not every 5 seconds, every 6, 7, 10 seconds, she's constantly gonna jump on somebody and deal damage. The battle skill, for 8 seconds after being cast, each basic attack deals an extra 68% radiant damage, which is pretty interesting. Then you have the ultimate skill, a pretty good range, deals 700 attack radiant damage to enemies within range. If the hero has rally when casting the skill, it consumes rally to deal extra 200% attack through damage. Through damage means that ignores everything, nothing can actually stop her, you know. So that's a very powerful AoE right here. Very, very strong. Moving over to the next one, guys, and again, now we're moving over to Frost heroes. They need Frost support in order to bring in the damage, okay? So you need champions that will land Frost for them to deal a lot of damage. We're gonna go over to Rena. She looks amazing and she has a pretty powerful kit, but she's dependable of Frost, okay? Same like wild heroes, they need wild. Rally heroes need rally heroes to work better. She needs Frost to work better. So if you don't have that, she's not gonna be that amazing. The passive ignores the target's defense by 20% when attacking an enemy inflicted with Frost. So regardless of the target, you ignore 20% of the target's defense already. The battle skill deals 365 cold damage to the enemy with the lowest HP with a chance to inflict Frost. So this is not that strong, but paired with a 20% ignore defense, it does make quite a bit of a difference. Then the ultimate skill, a pretty good range, deals 600 attack cold damage to enemies within range that are not inflicted with frost. Now, if they're under frost, you're gonna deal 840% attack and ignore 20% of the target's defense. So that is insane, guys. This skill right here should be melting waves like there's no tomorrow. So definitely keep an eye on Rowena. Then we have no one else but Braava. Again, another interesting champion. Frost hero. He does need some frost too. Crit damage in all battles. The passive: for each enemy inflicted with frost on the field, the hero gains an extra 15% attack up. This effect stacks up to 3 times. So basically you can gain 45% increased attack on top of what he will have. The battle skill fires 3 orbs at a random enemy, dealing 260% attack cold damage with a chance of inflicting frost. So again, this does sound more interesting against single targets because they go random. If no, it's not going to be an AoE, but you're going to deal a bit of extra damage. The ultimate skill, AoE, summons a nexus that lasts 10 seconds in a designated area, dealing 55% attack cold damage to enemies within range every 1.5 seconds, with a chance of inflicting frost for 10 seconds. Upon expiration, the nexus will explode, dealing 400% attack cold damage to enemies within range. And you're gonna have that increased attack if you're putting so much frost. Unlike Rowena, he does bring quite a bit of frost on his zone, you know, so that's a pretty good thing to keep in mind. Then guys, this hero needs to make the top 10. He might not be the #1 damage dealer, but he does a lot of damage, he does a lot of support, he does a lot of debuffing. Vorish, man, he's just too good not to be part of it. And I mentioned it before, I feel like he's gonna be part of every top 10 that we're gonna make on Epic Champions because he's so amazing in everything, you know. So the passive heals the ally with the lowest HP by 70% attack when dealing damage. That's very nice. The more attack, the more damage, and he does have almost 1450 attack, which is nuts. Then the battle skill deals 120 attack cold damage to enemies 3 times. When dealing damage to the enemies, has a 50% chance of dispelling 1 buff from them. So that's pretty nice against bosses. And the ultimate skill covers the entire map. That's the good part of it, the beauty of it. And this is very helpful in the Goblin, very helpful in many, many different areas. That's why it's so freaking powerful. Like, look at that area, man. Like, no other damage dealer from the epics covers so much of the area. Deals 220% attack cold damage 3 times to all enemies with a chance of putting a buff prohibition. 100% chance to do that when you fully scroll him. And yeah, it might not sound like the most insane damage, but just generally everything that he brings, it just pairs so nice in every single team that it's just hard to take him out of the top 10, honestly. And then the last champion that I have on the list, guys, summoners. Yeah, summoners and summoners. So summoners are interesting. They can put some damage, but I feel like it's not as easy to make them work. And I'm not such a fan of it. And probably a lot of you guys experience the same thing. But Questa, from the necrosis element, she's a different type of food. So we have increases ally attacks in arena 30%. The passive, every time an enemy dies, grants recovery over time to all allies. The battle skill charges towards the enemy with the lowest HP, dealing 420% attack necrotic damage and putting attack penalty for 5 seconds. Now, her base attack is almost 1500, guys. Very nasty. And the ultimate skill is a single hit. Jumps towards an enemy, dealing 950% attack damage, stealing 30% of their ultimate energy, and healing of 475% attack. So nasty. I am running her in the Vortex as a secondary attack down champion and single hit DPS. She's not the best option for the Vortex, but she works pretty good, judging by what heroes I have available on my account, you know. And for arena, pretty interesting. For a lot of other content like bosses, can be very, very interesting. But that will do the top 10 epic damage dealers in Dragonheir Silent Gods. I know I mentioned a few more than that and gave a couple of shoutouts here and there, but that's mainly to give you guys an idea. If you have them and you might be missing the other top 10, you know, at least you know that you could potentially work with the other champions. Appreciate all of you guys watching. Much love, and I'll catch you all soon in the next video. Peace.